Hooters is such an intriguing business in that there are so many unusual elements to it that it can feel surreal at times. For example, this has to be one of the few restaurants that is not primarily recognized by its food or atmosphere, but by its servers. Hooters girls are known for being friendly and cheerful and wear one of the most iconic uniforms in the industry. For over 40 years now, I think it is safe to say that they have been mostly responsible for the success and longevity of the concept that has recently been showing some major signs of trouble. In 2024, they shut down around 40 US locations that they said were underperforming, which was significant considering that there were only 300 in operation at the time, already down from around 400 at their peak in 2008 as they were entering into the recession. Then, potentially the most concerning news happened in March of 2025 when they filed for bankruptcy, reporting $376 million in debt. As of right now, it looks like Hooters will continue on with some notable changes that I will be talking about shortly. I have seen a fair amount of comments asking for me to make a video about what has been happening, and I have to agree, this is a great topic that is very much worth covering. So for this video, I've put together a list of what I believe to be 5 of the biggest reasons behind the decline of Hooters. Starting off with some various external factors. For this, I'm grouping together a bunch of stuff that has hurt them from outside the company. As I already mentioned, they never fully recovered from the Great Recession at the end of the 2000s decade when many people were short on money and not eating at restaurants as often. The pandemic was harmful for obvious reasons, leading to an abnormally low sales year. In fact, most of their debt stems from asset-backed bonds that they issued in 2021, seemingly as a way to make it through that difficult time. In 2024, when they closed all those restaurants, they put out a statement implying that pressure from current market conditions was a main reason behind their troubles, likely referring to higher costs for food and labor, as well as inflation causing people to limit their spending. In the actual bankruptcy filing less than a year later, they cited inflationary pressure and industry headwinds as being contributors. And to add another layer to this, fast food and fast casual concepts have already been drawing customers away from casual dining restaurants for quite a while, but the current economy has made that problem so much worse. Many other casual dining restaurants have been struggling, even filing for bankruptcy, like Red Lobster and TGI Fridays, both within the past year. Back in 2017, Hooters had a plan to address the issue by starting a fast casual chicken wing takeout concept called Hoots Wings. Especially looking back on it today, it seems like it could have been a promising direction. In 2021, they made a franchising deal where 60 of them would be opened, but I don't think it is going to happen. According to their website, 4 years later, they currently have only 3 of them in operation, so it has yet to become anything significant. These have been factors that have mostly been beyond their control, but there is so much more to the story. For the next reason on my list, I have to say that controversies throughout the years have held them back. I doubt you will be surprised to hear that Hooters has easily been among the most controversial restaurants out there, to a point where I have previously made a video about their controversial history. I recommend checking it out if you want to hear more details, but there have been countless lawsuits involving discrimination, harassment. One that I failed to mention before that was brought up in the comments a lot was in 2002, one of their former servers sued the company because she won a beer sales contest where she believed that the prize was a new Toyota. So they put a blindfold on her, took her out to the parking lot, and took it off to reveal that she had actually won a Toy Yoda, the character from Star Wars, and that is not cool. All of these settlements have cost the company money over the years, which of course is not helpful, but the bigger cost has been their reputation. For so many different reasons, people have questioned the morals of this company and have gone so far as to protest it, or at the very least, just avoid going there. Next up on the list is competition, because we have to acknowledge that Hooters was practically a pioneer in what they do. It is widely considered to be the world's first breastaurant, a category that is kind of self-explanatory and has been built upon by many other companies, turning it into a multi-billion-dollar segment, if you can believe that. In 2013, a chain called Bikini Sports Bar and Grill was even awarded a federal trade trademark for that term. Twin Peaks is a very comparable concept that has grown to around 100 locations over the past 20 years. Early on, multiple top executives from Hooters left the company to become Twin Peaks franchisees. That even led to yet another lawsuit concerning the alleged theft of trade secrets. Also, I want to recognize that Hooters was a pioneer when it came to chicken wings. They were just starting to become popular in the 1980s when Hooters decided to specialize in selling them, and chicken wings have since become one of the country's most popular foods. I almost find it hard to believe that Americans consumed almost 1.5 billion of them during the 2025 Super Bowl, which averages out to more than 4 of them for every person in the country. And of course, with such a higher demand, the whole market has become insanely competitive. Notably, Buffalo Wild Wings, who started just 1 year before Hooters, has grown to over 1,000 locations, and Wingstop, who started over a decade after Hooters, has grown to over 2,000 locations. So when it comes to restaurants and chicken wings, Hooters simply does not stand out in the way that they used to. Going back to my list, another major reason behind the decline of Hooters is changing ownership. Hooters was started by 6 friends in Clearwater, Florida in 1983. It was a rough start because the location was questionable and none of them had any experience in the industry, but the uniqueness of the concept and some clever marketing early on was helpful in growing it into a sizable chain. In 2001, those original owners sold the Hooters trademark and licensing rights for $60 million while maintaining ownership of their existing restaurants, and ever since, things have been complicated. Just a quick overview here. 5 years later, the owner, Robert Brooks, unexpectedly died from a heart attack. Following his death, his son inherited 30% of the company and took over as CEO, but the inheritance was contested by his father's widow, his stepmother, leading to legal proceedings. All of that ultimately led to Hooters being sold to a group of private investors in 2011. In 2015, they were looking to sell it, but ended up waiting until 2019 when they sold it to 2 different private equity firms. Changing owners like this means changing leadership and often a change in direction. Plans get reversed and a lot of money and effort can end up being wasted. However, this is a unique situation because when all of that uncertainty was happening throughout most Hooters restaurants, the original owners have remained in control of about 20 locations throughout Florida and Chicago. And according to them, those 20 locations on average have been outperforming the other ones. According to the head of the original company, Neil Kiefer, his restaurants average about twice as many sales as the other ones. And what makes this a truly unique situation is that through the bankruptcy, that original company will soon be taking control of around 100 of the other Hooters locations, which is going to be a massive undertaking to operate 4 times as many restaurants as they currently have. Neil Kiefer does not seem to be a fan of those private equity firms and how they've been running things, saying there's a noticeable difference. The food's different, the service is different. I hope to correct it all. He says that they changed the original recipe of the buffalo sauce along the way, whereas his company still uses the superior original one, but the core of his complaints is the fact that Hooters has become overly sexualized, in his opinion, and alienated families. It is going to lead me right into the next reason on my list, an identity crisis. See, here's the thing. From the beginning, Hooters has been a sexualized concept. I think we can all agree on that, right? I mean, it is built into the name of the restaurant and the uniforms. In July of 1986, one of their first big breaks was Hooters girl Lynn Austin being featured as Playboy's Playmate of the Month. Historically, they have been seen as somewhat rebellious, the company that pushes the boundaries, and it seems like outsiders with no direct experience with the restaurant probably perceive it as being even more adult than it actually is. I would bet that many of the viewers here would identify Hooters as being the least family-friendly restaurant you know. That last video I made about Hooters was inexplicably demonetized by YouTube. It was appealed by me, manually reviewed by them, remonetized, demonetized again before ultimately staying monetized. I mean, it was aggravating. The only explanation for it that I can possibly guess is that Hooters is perceived as such an adult-oriented respected company that it set something off in the YouTube system that made it believe that there must be something inappropriate about my video. Having that as their public image has arguably contributed to their success and attracted customers, but at the same time has made it difficult to grow and be widely appealing. When these other chicken wing restaurants are opening hundreds of locations, there is pressure to keep up with them, but that is difficult when they have such a smaller demographic. So I do not think there is a perfect answer as to whether or not they should be more adult or family friendly, because it is always going to be a trade-off on one side or the other. In 2013, to go along with their 30th anniversary, they made some branding and menu changes to try to become more family friendly, focusing more on sports, where the Business Insider headline said, "Hooters is trying to ditch its restaurant image yet again." But then in 2021, there was this big controversy where Hooters wanted their servers to wear even more revealing uniforms, so it goes back and forth. But as of right now, the plan of the original owners that are taking over many of the restaurants is to swing it back toward the family-friendly direction, saying you go to some parts of the country and people say, "Oh, I could never go to Hooters, my wife would kill me, that's depressing us, we want to change that." All I have to say here is that it is going to be a difficult mission to change the public's perception of these restaurants, and even if they are able to do that, then you have to question what exactly would make them stand out at that point.
There's only one thing you think of when you think of Hooters. Wings.
Wait, what?
Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Hooters? Is it a controversial, adult-themed restaurant that probably does not have much hope in changing their reputation or growing much larger, or is it a fun restaurant with a strong enough plan to overcome its recent issues and grow bigger than ever? Finally, I'm curious to ask, have you ever eaten there? And if so, how was the experience? I want to hear your review of it. And any other thoughts you have about Hooters, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.